guys, welcome back to the shop. Today, still working on the old hot rod. I figured I would show you guys how to install a water pump on a small block Chevy. So this is a pretty basic repair. Mostly all you need is a socket, a 9/16 socket, and a ratchet or an impact. Ratchet's probably a little best for when you're actually putting it on. Obviously, I don't have the alternator bracket installed, but that just bolts onto here, onto there, there, and there. So you just pull that stuff off, get the alternator out of the way. Pretty basic. So what we're gonna do, this is my brand new water pump. It's just kind of sitting here, mocked up, because I would just so I could figure out the accessory drive. So we're not actually removing a proper, like, on there water pump, but they don't really stick too hard. So basically we just pull that off like so. If you have, obviously you're going to be replacing a worn out one that's leaking. So it might put up a fight, but this thing is heavy enough and those gaskets are weak enough to where you don't have to worry about it. Next thing you're going to do is take a gasket scraper, and since I don't have my gasket scraper at home, I've left it at work. I've got a paint scraper, does the same job. What we want to do is make the mating surface of the water pump nice and clean. So get that to some fresh fair metal. And then I've got some Scotch-Brite to really clean that up. So it's really important that you get this nice and clean, otherwise there won't be anywhere for the sealant to stick. If you're fancy enough to have a die grinder on it, or a pad on a die grinder, that would also save you some time. I don't have one. Well, I probably do have one of those, but I don't want to dig it out. So we're going to do this old school, just a little bit of elbow grease. A little better down there. All right. That's nice and fresh, so I shouldn't have to worry about it, but I am still going to just give it a quick little scuff. Because you can never be too certain. Alrighty then. So now we've got our gaskets, and we've got our sealant. And the one thing to note is this one right here, this goes into the water passage, so you really need to put sealant on the threads on this guy. I believe these other ones are blind holes, but it never hurts to put sealant on all of them just in case. So that's what I'm going to do. The other thing to mention is that I've got right here is the Permatex water pump and thermostat housing sealant, kind of specially formulated for coolant passageways. You don't really need to use that if you've just got the standard black stuff. That'll work just fine. That's pretty much all I use at work. But we're going to add our goop to here, just a nice thin layer all around. All over that gasket. I'm going to lay that gasket onto the pump. Now I'm going to grab my other one, take my residuals, put it on there, put a little bit more You don't want to put too much sealant on, because if you really cake it, what'll happen is it'll splooge out and kind of get into the block, might go into the water pump, and that'll gum up the mix. So I don't recommend doing that. But yeah, just to layer enough to cover that. I'm going to lay that back on there. Wipe the goop off my hands. Oh. Then we're going to take our bolts. Like I said, I'm going to just put a little bit on the threads there just to be sure. I'm going to actually do 2 at a time. So I'm going to just do the top 2 right now to hold it in place. And that'll also keep my gaskets from moving around. I'm not actually going to tighten this down, I just want to run them in so that it holds itself. And now I can get the second 2 in. So a little bit of sealant on that one. That'll go in there. And then I'm going to put a whole bunch of sealant on this one because this is the one I know that goes into the water passage. So really gloop that up. And I'm also going to put some on the shank and get it underneath that guy. All right, so that's just a little bit of light torque with the impact. Now I'm going to get my ratchet. So probably should be using a torque wrench. It's never a bad idea, but in general, if you've got a feel for things, it's not the end of the world. I have a feel for things, so I'm not going to worry about it. This is also my truck. But you should look up the torque spec for these guys if you're concerned at all. And go with the torque spec that it has in the repair manual. So, but I'm going to just get these good and snug, and that should be plenty. You really don't want to wail on them because A, you don't want to break the bolts, and B, you really don't want to strip out your block. That would be a bad day. You can always helicoil it if you needed to, but that turns a quick and easy job like this into an all-day affair. So don't over tighten it. Anyway, that is the water pump install. The next step you would do is basically install your pulley. Well, you'd install your studs. Actually, I think I have the studs. Picked up the studs while I was out. Picked up some things at the junkyard. So. Anyway, you put your studs in. These have my nuts on them already. But so yeah, you put the studs in the correct order. This one is drilled for 2 different holes, or 2 different patterns. My guess is I'm probably putting these in the wrong holes. But that'll go on. Then your pulley will go on with all your belts. And then your fan/fan clutch will go on. And that's all just going to be on the studs. And other than that, it's basically just a belt change. So it's really not that hard, but that's kind of the basics of it. So I hope that helps. Okay, so I'm back. I've got the alternator mostly mounted up. It just basically is 2 bolts right here, and then a single bolt right there through to the cylinder head. Then we've got the adjuster bracket, which is a bolt there, and normally a bolt to the manifold, but this manifold is a stupid shape, and there's no spot for it, so I just lopped that corner off so it'll clear. So it's not fully super as secure as it normally would be. There was a bracket on this engine when I got it that went off to the thermostat housing. I have no idea where that bracket went, but I picked that guy up from junkyard. It came off a van, oddly enough. But small block Chevy, it's all the same, so it doesn't really matter. So got that. Got my studs installed in the water pump. Now I've got my fan clutch and my pulley. So pulley goes on first. It's almost 4th of July if you can't tell from all the noise outside. That goes on first. Then the fan itself. Then we're going to take some nuts and washers. I'm going to use some lock washers on here. And I'm going to stick that on there. This is a heck of a lot harder when you do have the radiator installed and a front of a car. I do have this luxury right now of this not actually being together, which makes it easier, but also makes it easier to show you guys. So that's why I'm doing it now, but don't think you need to take the whole front clip off your car to do this. All you really need to do is, once you get the fan shroud out of the way, you've got enough room. I've definitely done this on the Blazer before with everything installed, including the radiator. So don't worry about that. But these are 1/2-inch bolts, and we're going to cinch them up. I'm going to go in kind of a crisscross pattern. You don't need to, but you know, I did one and then I did the opposite, so that's what I'm doing. All right, so that is it. All we really got to do now is throw the belt on and tension it, assuming I have a belt. All right, that's all for now. We'll see you next time, and thanks for watching. Do 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 do.